Making headlines this hour. In a major step towards strengthening mental health and disability care across the Maldives, President Dr. Mohammad Muiz announces a comprehensive national project to train 250 local therapists. The government of the Maldives voices its support for international efforts to restore peace and stability in Yemen, welcoming initiatives led by Saudi Arabia to de-escalate the conflict. A new report by the Maldives Bureau of Statistics projects a significant demographic shift, forecasting that 2 out of every 5 people in the island nation will be foreigner by the year 2026.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. In a major step toward strengthening mental health and disability care across the Maldives, President Dr. Mohammad Muiz announces a comprehensive national project to train 250 local therapists.
The ambitious initiative, spearheaded by the Ministry of Higher Education, Labour and Skills Development, aims to address the critical shortage of specialized therapeutic services in rural and undeserved regions. Scheduled to commence in January, the program will equip Maldivians with professional skills in speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, and psychotherapy, fields vital for supporting children and adults with developmental and psychological challenges. Currently, access to these essential services remains limited outside the capital, placing a heavy burden on families who often seek costly treatments away from home. With the National Social Protection Agency and SPA reporting a staggering $804,150 spent on therapy last month alone, including treatment for 342 children under 18 and 17 adults, the government emphasized the urgency of building local capacity. Behavioral therapy remains the most utilized service, accounting for $226,977 in expenditure.
The government of the Maldives voices its support for international efforts to restore peace and stability in Yemen, welcoming initiatives led by Saudi Arabia to de-escalate the conflict. In a statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Maldivian government praised Saudi Arabia's commitment to measures aimed at restoring security and stability in areas reclaimed from fighting. The Maldives also urged all Yemeni parties to respond positively to these initiatives and to engage constructively in the peace process, saying such efforts were essential to meeting the Yemeni people's aspirations for development, prosperity, and a lasting peace. Voting concludes in the primary election of the ruling party, the People's National Congress (PNC), in preparation for next year's local council election (LCEs). The voting process commenced at 900 hours and concluded at 1600 hours, is scheduled in all locations except in Adu. The primary, which opened for candidacy on 1st December, features 298 contenders vying for 84 seats across 42 constituencies. A total of 44 polling stations were established across the country, with 21,000 eligible voters registered. Speaking to PSM News, a PNC local council election campaign manager and Inguradu MP Ibrahim Falah described the polling process as smooth and incident-free, likening it to a national election in terms of preparation and organization. The vote conducted process is currently ongoing and the vote counting process is currently ongoing and PNC is expected to announce the results soon. Minister of Education Dr. Ismail Shafiu states is part of the government initiative to modernize educational infrastructure. 30 buildings will be renovated and utilized by next school year.
Every year, the Ministry of Education carries out several projects enhancing educational facilities for the next academic year. As the school year begins in January for the first time in 4 years, the Ministry of Education is taking measures to improve conditions for both students and educators. In an interview with PSM News, the Minister of Education has cited that President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's administration is developing educational infrastructure on a landmark scale. Extensive financial investments were made with $1.94 million spent on maintenance and development in the first year and $4.53 million spent in 2025 alone. Minister Shafiu stated that $1.92 million have been allocated for the Cool Schools project, which aims to install air conditioning in all classrooms and staff rooms of government schools. This initiative will be carried out under contractor financing with an allotted budget of $3.56 million. He further stated that provisions have been made to repair and maintain walls, roofs and ceilings, and that many schools require extensive repairs due to neglect over long periods of time. Due to the increasing population of Hulumale Phase 2, more schools are planned to be constructed in this area. According to Minister Shafiu, one such example is Shahid Ali School, which will be inaugurated next year with 1,800 students given placements. So far, a minimum of 4 schools have been proposed for specific locations in Hulumale. The minister has stated that the next phase of the plan is to find contractors to carry out these works.
The Ministry of Economic Development and Trade orders the closure of 66 businesses as part of an intensified nationwide crackdown on illegal expatriate-run enterprises, reaffirming the government's commitment to tackling unauthorized commercial activity.
The enforcement campaign is carried out by the National Task Force on Combating Illegal Expatriate Operations and Businesses, comprising of officials from the economic and homeland security sectors, the Maldives Police Service and immigration authorities. According to the ministry, enforcement activities have increased significantly in recent weeks. Between late November and mid-December, authorities received 307 public reports and conducted inspections at 153 business establishments. The majority of closures related from violations on economic regulations, while 20 involved breaches of other applicable laws. The ministry said that the campaign targets 2 main forms of malpractice: the use of Maldivian citizens as proxy owners to bypass legal ownership restrictions, and expatriates operating businesses within 34 sectors reserved exclusively for Maldivian nationals. Investigative agencies are working closely with ministry officials to identify concealed business arrangements that contravene the Foreign Investment Act. Officials also emphasize the importance of public cooperation, urging citizens to report suspected illegal activities through dedicated hotlines, the ministry's website, or the Immigration's Watch platform. The ministry acknowledged the crucial role played by the public in helping authorities identify unlawful operations and enforce compliance across the country.
A new report by the Maldives Bureau of Statistics (MBS) projects a significant demographic shift, forecasting that 2 out of every 5 people in the island nation will be foreigners by the year 2026.
With the foreign population expected to surge from 132,493 in 2023 to 263,345 in 2026, the country's total population is predicted to reach 678,024, marking a rapid increase largely driven by expatriate labor. The data highlights a growing reliance on foreign workers, particularly in the working age bracket, where foreigners already outnumbered Maldivian males between age 25 and 29 by 17,000, a gap projected to widen by 40,000 by 2026. Meanwhile, declining birth rates among Maldivian women, expected to drop to 1.5 children per woman, will shrink the child population from 22% to 11%, while the elderly population is set to rise sharply from 4% to 18%.
The Ministry of Economic Development and Trade issues a final reminder to inactive companies that the deadline to apply for reactivation expires on 30th December. In a social media announcement, the ministry warned that firms failing to submit reactivation applications by the due date will face a mandatory liquidation under the provisions of the Companies Act. Companies listed as inactive can verify their status by scanning a QR code shared on the ministry's official platforms. To resume operations, businesses must submit a formal request through the ministry's business portal, including a board-approved resolution, annual financial statements, corporate reports, and proof of payment to the Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, MIRA. Applications meeting all requirements will be processed, with approvals granted for resumption of activities within 15 days. The ministry urges affected companies to act promptly to avoid legal dissolution. Argentina's Congress passes the 2026 budget, the first approved by legislators since President Javier Milei took office in late 2023.
The budget, passed 46 votes to 25 with one abstention, includes spending of $102 billion and projects South America's second biggest economy will grow 5% with inflation at 10.1%. The bill projects a primary budget surplus equivalent to 1.2% of the gross domestic product. The 2023 budget was the last one passed by Congress. During the first 2 years of his term, Milei's government had extended the budget of the previous year without passing a bill in Congress, resulting in sectors being dramatically hit by inflation, which hit an annual rate of almost 300% in April 2024. According to a report by the Civil Association for Equality and Justice, a Buenos Aires-based think tank, the new budget reflects a 7% increase in real terms from 2025, but a 24.6% drop in real terms compared to the 2023 Congress-approved budget. However, the think tank noted that some inflation projections are significantly higher than the executive branch's forecast.
Alphabet unit Waymo says it will expand first responder engagement, improve its emergency response protocols, and roll out updates to allow its vehicles to navigate intersections more decisively following incidents of stalled Waymo robotaxis after a San Francisco power outage.
A statement on social media website X called the power outage a unique stress test and said the company was introducing fleet-wide updates. Waymo paused service following a fire at a PG&E substation that knocked out power to roughly one-third of the city, affecting about 130,000 residents and forcing some businesses to close temporarily. A California regulator said it was looking into incidents in which Waymo's robotaxis stalled in parts of San Francisco because of the outage.
Thailand and Cambodia agrees to halt weeks of fierce border clashes, the worst fighting in years between the Southeast Asian countries that has included fighter jets, sorties, exchange of rocket fire and artillery breakages.
The agreement, signed by Thai Defense Minister Nattapon Nakrapanyit and his Cambodian counterpart Thi Sai Ha, ended 20 days of fighting that had killed at least 101 people and displaced more than 500,000 on both sides. The clashes were reignited in early December after a breakdown in a ceasefire that U.S. President Donald Trump and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim had helped broker to halt a previous round of fighting. For more than a century, Thailand and Cambodia have contested sovereignty at various undemarcated points along their 817-kilometer land border, a dispute that has occasionally exploded into skirmishes and fighting.
U.S. Air Force MQ-9 Reaper drones were seen at Rafael Hernandez Airport in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, as the U.S. continues to boost its surveillance in the Caribbean amid tensions with Venezuela.
The United States has assembled a massive military force in the Caribbean, including an aircraft carrier, fighter jets, and other warships. Ospreys and additional MC-130J Commando II aircraft arrived in Aguadilla in recent days. U.S. President Donald Trump earlier this month ordered a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela in Washington's latest move to increase pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump has accused the South American country of flooding the U.S. with drugs, and his administration has for months been bombing boats originating in South America that it alleges were carrying drugs. Many nations have condemned the attacks as extrajudicial killings. Trump has also frequently threatened to start bombing drug infrastructure on land and has authorized covert CIA activity directed at Caracas. So far this month, the U.S. Coast Guard has intercepted two tankers in the Caribbean Sea, both fully loaded with Venezuelan crude.
Kosovo's political parties wraps up election campaign rallies ahead of elections after a year-long political stalemate that led to the dissolution of parliament.
Prime Minister Albin Kurti's Vetëvendosje party won the last election in February but failed to secure a majority or find a willing coalition party after an acrimonious campaign. Many fear a repeat could throw Europe's newest state into further crisis just 4 months before Parliament must vote for a new president as deadlines loom to ratify international loans. Polls are not made public in Kosovo, so there is little sign of how the vote will go. But it appears unlikely that any of the major opposition parties will be willing to form a government with Kurti, who they say has stoked tensions with Kosovo's ethnic Serb minority in the north, done little to improve living standards, and tarnished Kosovo's reputation abroad. Kurti, who came to power in 2021, blames the opposition for the stalemate and remains publicly optimistic about winning the 500,000 hearts required to gain an outright majority. Kosovo gained independence from Serbia in 2008 with the U.S. backing, which included a 1999 NATO bombing campaign against Serbian forces, waging a brutal campaign to crush an uprising by the 90% ethnic Albanian majority.
Russia attacks Kiev with missiles and drones ahead of what President Volodymyr Zelensky said would be a key meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump to work out a deal to end nearly 4 years of war.
Kiev authorities said at least 28 people, including 2 children, were wounded. Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko reported damage to private houses, apartment buildings, and cars in 7 out of 10 Kiev districts. Reuters video showed firefighters putting out fires at one charred residential building in the Dniprovsky district. Before the attacks, Zelensky said his talks in Florida on Sunday would focus on the territory to be controlled by each side after a halt to the fighting that began in February 2022 with President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Russia's smaller neighbor, Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II.
World number 1 Aryna Sabalenka and Australian Nick Kyrgios says they were excited about facing the unknown when they meet in Battle of the Sexes exhibition match that has divided opinion in the tennis world.
The duo said they were not paying too much attention to the debate surrounding the contest at Dubai's Coca-Cola Arena. In the original 1973 Battle of the Sexes, women's trailblazer Billie Jean King beat then 55-year-old former Grand Slam champion Bobby Riggs, who had maintained that women's tennis was inferior to the men's game.
I feel like back then it was a different story. They were trying to fight for different things, and we are here to bring tennis to another level, to bring attention to our sport, to help our sport grow, and to have some fun, and make sure that people that come in to watch us play have fun and enjoy great tennis. I feel like women already proved that we deserve equal, and tomorrow I'll just show that we are capable of putting a great fight against the man and have fun.
King recently told the BBC that while the Dubai match shared the same banner, it did not have as much writing on it as her clash with Riggs. She said her contest was a battle for social change in a vastly different cultural era. Kyrgios said the world needed more collaborative efforts like his match against Sabalenka. While Riggs had retired from the men's tour when he faced King, Kyrgios is still an active player on the ATP circuit. The former Wimbledon runner-up's career has been dogged by injuries over the last few seasons, however, and he has played only 5 professional single matches in 2025. The best-of-3 sets encounter will have modified rules, including 1 serve for each player and a slightly smaller court for Sabalenka, with a 10-point tiebreak settling the contest should it go into a decider.
A hospital in Peru reports the successful separation of conjoined twin baby girls. Authorities announced, calling the outcome a miracle.
Officials said Ailani and Alif Palacios Picon, premature twins born joined at the spine, were successfully separated during a highly complex surgical procedure on December 18 at the National Institute of Child Health San Borja, or INSN San Borja. The girls were born prematurely on October 5, 2025 in Huánuco in central eastern Peru and arrived at the hospital in Lima 3 days after birth in a delicate condition, requiring medical teams to work quickly to stabilize them. According to medical officials, a multidisciplinary team evaluated the twins to determine the best surgical approach. MRI scans revealed the girls shared a spinal canal and nerve structures, significantly complicating the separation, the officials said. The surgical team operated on December 18 in a procedure lasting more than 3 hours. Following the surgery, Ailani and Alif were transferred to the neurosurgery intensive care unit where they remained until Wednesday. The twins' parents, Marlene Picon and Menelio Palacios, who work as farmers in their hometown of Lata, expressed gratitude to the doctors, anesthesiologists, nurses, and nursing technicians who cared for their daughters. Hospital officials described the successful separation as a remarkable achievement, given the complexity of the case and the premature birth of the twins.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.